In today's video, we are going to speak to three fans of all the three different title challenging teams, and we're going to see if we can all come to a conclusion about who we think is going to win the Premier League this season. So I've got on screen now the Premier League top three as of now. So when I first recorded speaking to all three of these fans, we were talking about the 9-game streak that they had left. So now all three teams have now played one of their games. So Arsenal beat Luton, Liverpool beat Sheffield, and Manchester City beat Villa. So it doesn't affect it too much as all three teams won. So we're going to be speaking about the 9 games, but take into account that we've already seen one of those games for each team play out. So we currently have Liverpool top with 70 points, Arsenal second with 68, and Manchester City third with 67. So we're going to see if we can conclude, see how many points we think they'll get, who's going to be important during the run-in, and what's their toughest fixtures, and little things like that. And we're going to see who thinks what team's going to finish first, and then at the end I'm going to conclude with my thoughts, what I think is going to happen, and who I think is going to win the Premier League this season. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, and for our Arsenal representative today, we have Alexander here with me. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to ask you 4 questions, basically about the title, race for the title, whatever we want to call it, and then we'll come to a conclusion at the end of what you think is going to happen. So I don't know how many of these videos you've had to make already, probably quite a few that you've spoke about this enough. But which of the 9 fixtures, if you can remember them, if not, I'll list them off, do you think are the toughest for you towards the end of the season?
Would you mind listing them? I've got one in my mind.
Yeah, so you got Luton, Brighton, Villa, Wolves, Chelsea, Tottenham, Bournemouth, United, Everton.
Okay, I think on paper for Arsenal, that United fixture looks. We're not. I think I was saying this the other day. When people say on paper, I think sometimes they'll look at it and they'll go, "Oh, on paper for Arsenal, it means also on paper for Liverpool, also on paper for City." Like for example, Liverpool going to Goodison Park is a different proposition to Arsenal going to Goodison Park. So I think it has to be relative to your team and not just the kind of the club name. I do think for Arsenal, we've typically struggled at Old Trafford. So that on paper looks like a tough game. But I have Wolves down. I don't know why. I've had Wolves for about 3 weeks as the team that I look at and just go, I don't know. If you're going to slip up, it just feels like such like because I look at us in the big games and I don't worry about us then. You know, our big game record. I think since Arteta's come in, as in all through his period since he first came in, I think we've only got 1 point less than Guardiola in the big games or something. It's like a crazy stat. We're like the big games are not a problem anymore. It's those types of games going away to Wolves, going away to Forest end of last season, Fulham this year. You know, it's those types of games. And Wolves, I don't know. I just got a feeling about it.
Yeah, they could hit a little low block against you, which is when those set pieces could come to play that you've been so good at this year. So that's helped you open up a lot of low blocks. So who do you think will be the most important player during the run-in? So that could actually come into play. Do you think who could open up Wolves, or who do you just think is going to be the most important during the entire 9-game streak for you?
I think you have to look at Rice. I think not only is he going to be available 100%, he's just one of those players who, you know, I'm watching against England, he like pulled up a little bit. And he's the one player that I've watched for England pulling up and gone, it'll be all right. Everyone else, like Saka, oh no, there's that moment. He just had a little like moment where he was sort of limping. I think he will be available, he says, and I'm guaranteed I've jinxed it now. But I think with the defensive solidity we've had this season, with the games coming up in terms of how big they are, I trust him to grow into those games. I think he's one of those players who, I think we used to have so many players who were talented players, but when those games came around, it's almost like they didn't enjoy them. They didn't enjoy those types of games. They didn't enjoy the challenge. And it feels like Rice is one of those players who grows into those moments. He's a grower into the scenario, into any kind of space that you give him. So I think probably Rice, and obviously then you have his actual football ability and he's world class.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will add another question here because I had something else written down. I did have Rice as well, but I also noted down Saliba. Do you think if he was to get injured, for example, do you think you'd suffer a similar fate to last season, or do you think you're better equipped to deal with that, maybe with Timber coming back, or how would you feel about that?
It would obviously be a big blow. He's massive in terms of how we build up. I think it's massive how he, obviously people talk about him from a defensive standpoint. On the ball, he's unbelievable, and actually think he's quite far away from his ceiling on the ball. He's shown at Marseille and on his loans and stuff that when he steps out of defense and dribbles a little bit, he's got a little bit more. I think he'd be a bit more adventurous, but he's already one of the most important players in terms of that first phase. Potentially, it's not as big of an issue this season. It obviously would be an issue, but I think because we have been the problem last season, it wasn't just Saliba, it was Tomiyasu as well. That was the thing. It's like losing, two number nines at the same time. It's like it's not just the number nine that you want. It's also, the guy who can come in and do an approximate job. So you have to move things around. I think we'd be okay. I think we do different things. We've also got Rice as well, who I think could step into that position. I think Saliba's huge, but I genuinely believe him and Martinelli are still quite far away from their ceiling, and people look at them and are excited by them, and so am I. But I actually think, not to say that Rice can't improve, but I think Rice is already at a certain level where you go, yeah, that is world class, and Saliba is, I also believe, world class, but I actually think he can go to new levels. So in terms of who's important for Arsenal, I think I would probably put Rice over him.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, to be fair. So, with those 9 fixtures that we spoke about, the 9 that I listed, how many points do you think you'll tally up over that? Or if you don't want to do the maths, then just how many wins, how many draws, how many losses?
27 points, 9 wins.
Points.
I think we'll get. I'm going to go 6 wins, 2 draws, and a loss.
Okay, so you've actually gone under me. I think that you might do a bit better than that. So,
where would that put us in your sort of league table?
I won't say the league table because that's for the end of the whole video. But what I will say is I've got Arsenal. I think I've got Arsenal winning 7 and drawing 2. Personally, I think you're going to lose.
I'll give you my individual break. I don't know if this is useful for the video, but I'll give you my individual breakdown of what I think will happen. So I think we'll beat Luton Town. I think we will beat Brighton away. And I also think we'll beat Villa at home, which puts us in a really good position. Yeah. And I then think we will draw away at Wolves. I think we will win against Chelsea at the Emirates. I think we'll draw away at Spurs. I think we'll beat Bournemouth. And I think we'll lose at Old Trafford away, and then beat Everton on the final day. Whether that's enough, I don't know, but I think we will. Yeah, I think we'll lose. We'll drop points there.
Yeah, so sort of similar to me. I think the only difference is, like you said, Wolves maybe being your what you're worried about, just because it could be a bit of a tetchy game. That's whereas I've got Wolves to beat for you to beat Wolves, and then I've got draws against. I've got a draw against United at Old Trafford, and then I've sort of put a draw against either Tottenham or Chelsea, just because I think the magnitude of those games. If I'm being realistic, I do think you'll beat us. Like me being a Chelsea fan, I do think you'll win that. But I think just the magnitude of those 2 games back to back, they're both going to want to stop Arsenal really badly. Yeah. So I think those 2 games are a big part.
Mate, Spurs have a big role as well in this title race. Big role.
I think they play all 3, don't they? So and they're also a massive bogey team for City. So
yeah, true. But we can always rely on Spurs not to bottle it, can't we? Which is great. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I have to ask you one last wrap-up question, league prediction, who wins it?
I've said it from the beginning of the season. I think it'll be City. I just think if you look at, it's not, people look at experience or whatever, but I think Arsenal and City, if you look at all the underlying numbers, you look at how they play, they control every aspect of every game they're in. And also Man City have the individuals that can go and make a difference. I think Arsenal are developing those players in Saka and Odegaard and Rice and so on in different areas of the game, but they're not quite inevitable yet. I think City just still have the Kevin De Bruyne's, the Erling Haalands, those types of players who you just go, the Rodris, who are just inevitable, have been there, done it, proved time and time again. I think Liverpool actually have those players as well, with Trent, Salah, and a couple of others, Van Dijk, Jota, even in the way he plays. But I just think they're a little bit too on the edge of games. They don't quite control possession as much as I would like my team to. They don't quite control transition moments as much as I'd like my team to. They play, in that sort of, when there was an Unai Emery quote, which was like, I'd rather win 5-4 than win 1-0. And they play in that kind of way. So I just think there might be a few moments that go against them. But I think, City have the best of both worlds. And it's going to be, what's that, 6 out of 7 for Pep?
Yeah, well, can't
Crazy.
stop him.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your opinions on this. That's been brilliant. So thanks a lot. Let's get on to the next part of the video. Okay, and for our Liverpool representative, we have Tom Little joining us today. I will leave all of his things in the description down below, but we're going to ask him a few questions about Liverpool's run-in and where he thinks they will finish come the end of the season in that run for the title. So, Tom, first of all, which of those 9 fixtures that you've got do you think will be the toughest that you've got left, if you remember them?
I know the ones that are the toughest. It's either the derby games. You've got United away and Everton away. On paper, Villa away is also a tough game, but the added effect of a derby and the fact that in years gone by our challenges have fell apart when we go away to Everton or away to United, the stigma around that's probably what worries me the most. We haven't beat United this season. Everton 13 games without a win. They'll be desperate for one soon enough because they still have not cleared that relegation battle yet. They're the games that really worry me. Not because, oh, we're going to get smashed, but they could be nil-nils. They could be
Yeah,
horrendous games to watch where you just miss chance after chance after chance, and they might catch on the counter, and you leave that game going, how on earth has that happened? But they're the type of games that cost you in the end, as I know, because every single year without fail, it's a game like that costs us.
yeah, they're the big ones, aren't they? I've got written down here that they think your Opta rating is 86.6. That's basically the second hardest run of fixtures. You've got Arsenal's, which is the toughest, then yours, then City's, which is the easiest. But I think I agree with you. I think the United game really sticks out because I just think they're gonna go to win that, especially at Old Trafford. That's gonna be a big one where even just holding on for a draw, like you said, a 0-0, they're gonna want to stop you. So the other two teams that I think are gonna really pay dividends in that. So the next question I've got here who will be your most important player during this run-in?
Oh, I'm going to say Van Dijk just because he's been our most important player throughout the season, and the drop off in quality from him to the next lowest is stark, especially considering that Gomez is probably going to have to be used elsewhere. Quansah and Kanate, they can work together as a partnership, but it's not Van Dijk. It's not your captain at the back there. I think obviously we've got a lot of players coming back, but the reason why I can't say an Alisson or a Trent is just because the sharpness isn't there. They're going to need a couple of games to get going after such long layoffs. By the time they probably get 100%, there'll probably be like 3 or 4 games left. So I can't really say that they'll help us through this period per se. It'll be Van Dijk and definitely one of the midfielders, either Endo or Alexis as well. They deserve a special mention because the midfield last year to the midfield this season, it's so stark. It's the reason why we're probably in this title challenge. And the pair of them have shown why we need them, especially in this running. And Endo gives you that combative nature in the middle of the park, which we so missed last year when Fabinho's legs were gone. And McAllister's everything we thought Thiago was going to be, but
Yeah,
we've got him
I think
younger and he's less injury prone.
Yeah, I do. I think that both those midfielders have been class. I think Endo. I was really surprised by Endo. I thought he was an okay player, but I've never thought he's going to hit the heights that he came in and he's absolutely shone. I think he's been absolutely unbelievable. But I've also written down Van Dijk. I think he's the most impactful. Like you said, the drop off. I think if you lose Van Dijk, you're looking around for leaders. You've not got as much in the team, and he starts everything from the back, just having that sense of just stability that he brings you. So I'm going to ask you. This isn't an easy question, but so over the last 9 games, how many points do you think that you'll tally up? Or how many wins and
Uh,
losses?
Trying to do the maths in my head here.
I don't know. It's
I
tough.
think we will end up with 23. I could see 25, but I'm going to go 23.
22 is
Is that
exactly what I've got.
7 wins and 2 draws?
Yeah, that's exactly what I've got as well. So that works well. So with that being said, who do you think wins it?
I think we get over the line. I think the factor that swings it in our favour is I believe City and Arsenal will end up playing each other in the semi-finals of the Champions League. And
Yep.
for both of them sides, that's going to take a lot out of them. Ultimately, we've got a bigger advantage over City, so we've got a little bit more wiggle room in terms of the drop points we can manage. No team is going to win all 9. I think that's blatantly obvious. This doesn't mean it's a low quality title running, but it's not like the run-ins that have been in the past where teams will go on 10, 11, 12 game winning runs. It's not that because the league is a little bit more competitive now. Ultimately, I just think the factor of them two playing each other in the Champions League will wear their players out, and the games either side of them or slap bang in the middle, which I think for Arsenal's Tottenham away, which is
Yeah.
why we marked it.
Chelsea as
They're the
well.
type of dodgy games that can really sort of ruin the seasons, especially with all the pressure around the Champions League for them. Because City, it might be the only trophy they can win this year. For Arsenal, again, the same sort of factor, but they've never won it before. It'll be a big statement of intent from Arteta to get back in that situation. I think we have just enough of a sort of scenario around us with the storyline about Klopp, with our history and run-ins where we always pick up a lot of points anyway to get over the line. And the fact we've got Europa League as well. Europa League's tough. 100% it is. Atalanta aren't an easy side, but I'd much rather the Atalanta and then a Benfica than a Bayern and then a City, because we need to rest our players at some point. I think we're a little bit lucky compared to City and Arsenal that our players are coming back from injury, so there's not like a wear and tear on the legs going into the running sort of thing. It's about getting them back up to a full fitness. But that swings in roundabouts in the sense that a lot of the players who've had to play a lot of games at this period of time have a lot of wear and tear. So I think you'll see a lot of rotation, especially in, we've got Palace at home, we've got Sheffield United at home, all them games in and around that where it's a little bit easier opposition, especially your home games. I expect to see the likes of Harvey, I expect to see the likes of Curtis when he's back, Gravenberch, Kwanzaa, Simicas, Gakpo, all them not get a lot of minutes in those games because we need to save the big players for the big moments. And I think doing that correctly, as Klopp has done in the past in title races, will be enough to get us over the line this time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Klopp is a big factor for me. I think if you do go on to win it, I think that Klopp factor will have a big say. That last season, just that, I think that you're going to want to finish it on a high for him. Obviously, going out of the FA Cup now, you haven't got that to worry about, whereas City do. As you said, the Champions League ties, that could play big parts in terms of their fatigue. So, absolutely agree on that front. But thanks for your opinions, and let's move on to the next. And finally, for our City representative, we have Nobbins with us today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. So, we'll start straight away. Which of these 9 fixtures that you've got remaining do you think will be toughest and your most challenging?
Oh, great question. Look, I can't look past Spurs away. This is still a ground which we have not scored a Premier League goal at. This is a ground of which we have missed more penalties at than scored goals in all competitions. I know that
Crazy.
Spurs aren't quite the same animal that they have been in recent years for City, and Ange is much more forward thinking, which does allow City a bit more space. But that being said, when he came to the Etihad, he did play a more defensive line. In the FA Cup, did play a deeper defensive line. So I think you've got to look to that one. That, I believe, that is our final game in the Premier League against another Big Six opponent. I'm sure you'll, as a Chelsea fan, you'll know how we've been against Big Six sides this season. Shocking. We haven't, outside of United, who are bad, we haven't actually beaten anyone. We haven't beaten you guys. We haven't beaten Spurs. We haven't beaten Liverpool. We haven't beaten Arsenal. So that's got to be the one for me. That is genuinely massive.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think with the rest of your fixtures, really, I think you're looking at Villa, which obviously is, as we're recording this, that's tonight. So I think that'll be a tough game. But I think you've got enough against Villa. Yeah, he had as well. I think, Tottenham really is the one that stands out to me. Again, they're a bit of a bogey team for you. So that's definitely the one that stands out for me too. So during that run-in with those 9 games, we'll try and stick to the Premier League. But obviously, you've got the FA Cup and you've got the Champions League games, which could also be pivotal. But in those 9 Premier League games, we'll try and break it down to, who do you think will be your most important player in that 9 games?
He's apparently back from injury now. Jack Grealish is going to be the one. It might be controversial to some. Obvious names would be De Bruyne, Hall, and maybe John Stones because of the system. But it is not a coincidence that whenever Jack Grealish plays, City look like the team of last season. He had an incredibly underrated role in the team last season. People being very flippant and saying, oh, you could swap him out for anyone. No. This season has demonstrated that is not the case. Obviously, the loss of Gundogan as well. But in the brief moments we've seen him, think of away against Copenhagen, for example, and it was only for 20 minutes before he got his injury. Even in the FA Cup game, I believe it was against Luton. Again, it's only Luton. But when he was on the pitch, we looked good. We looked measured. We looked creative. It's the tangibles and the intangibles of which he offers. If we're going to win anything this season, it will be with Jack Grealish in the majority of those starting 11s. 100% for me. The control he brings, the balance, drawing in players and creating space for others. Such an underrated asset of his. Like, people look at Grealish and go, "What's he offering?" You might have to look closer than, say, a De Bruyne, because he's not going to play like that brilliant pinpoint cross from the half space. But what he does do is genuinely invaluable, particularly to a player like Hall, and he creates space for others. other players can exploit that space. So for me, it's got to be Super Jack.
Yeah, I really like that because I had written down Rodri as the obvious one for me, and then as you said, Haaland and KDB,
Sure.
Foden, these players obviously they're big as well. But I really like the Grealish shout because I do actually think he offers a lot, and the whole thing with like Doku coming in this year, I think Grealish he's the ready-made Pep winger now. We've already seen him sort of go through that transition first season that he had where Pep was sort of integrating him into the system, and then last year we just saw an absolute monster of a player. In my opinion, I thought he was unbelievable last season. So. No, I really like that shout. I think that's actually a really good one. If he can come in and stay fit and get in that side, he is a massive plus for you, really. So, yeah, definitely agree. So, let's go down to the last 9 games, points total over that 9 games, or if you don't want to add them all up, just how many wins, how many draws, how many losses, if you think there might be. What do you reckon?
For Man City specifically.
Yeah, just for you.
City are more than capable historically of winning 9 in a row. There's no disputing that. You know, the issue is that we haven't yet seen this team click to any large degree. Brief moments I mentioned earlier with Grealish being available, in those brief moments we looked like the side of last season. So I don't know how much confidence I have that we are going to click. Lots of City fans are still of the mindset that, yeah, don't worry, we're gonna kick into form. There are 9 games left. Hasn't happened yet. It already happened this time last season. It happened in March, I believe, of last season. I'd like to say we'll win all 9.
Yeah.
But I personally don't think we will. I think I can, if I'm being optimistic but still realistic, I can foresee a maximum of 8 wins and a draw. I think that's the
exactly
absolute maximum we can be realistic with.
That's what I wrote down as well. I've basically put it down as 8 wins and a draw for City, but it's whether, because the thing for me is I think the most likely game that you are to slip up in would be the Spurs game, but it sort of depends around when that's played. Do you know if that's confirmed when it's going to be played yet?
Well, allegedly, it's going to be rescheduled towards the back end of the season, so it might be one of the last games we play. But as you say, it's all up in the air because I think it also depends on whether we get past Real Madrid in the Champions League. That's another 2 fixtures that they're going to have to account for. Yeah, it's a tricky one. And look, no disrespect to Brighton away. We've still got to go there. Wolves, I know it's at home, but they beat us. West Ham are a very good side. Even Fulham away is not going to be easy. And again, if it was any other season under Pep, I'd be like, yeah, these games are, we can tick them off as like 3 points already won. But he clearly doesn't know his best team yet. We haven't really seen it this season. So I don't know how confident I can be in saying, yeah, we're going to steamroll past these opponents, because again, people are expecting it to come, but we're getting to the stage where it's going to be too late.
Yeah, to the point where it's got to come now. Otherwise, it's, like you say, too late.
Yeah.
But so the Opta score has you at 86.4. So it does actually have you as the easiest run in, which I think you and Liverpool are quite close, really. That theirs is 86.6, yours is 86.4. So it's not a lot in it. You've both got to play Spurs. And I think the difference is they've got United at Old Trafford. But if I was to ask you, league prediction, who wins it?
Sadly, I'm trying to be realistic. I think the answer is Liverpool, because I can't see City being perfect on the one hand and Liverpool dropping 3 to 4 points. There has to either be a defeat and a big goal difference swing, or 2 draws from a Liverpool perspective. On one hand, and on the other, City have to win all 9. So unless someone thinks that Liverpool are going to absolutely capitulate in the last 9 games, which I personally don't see, I don't think they're going to drop points in a third of the remaining games. We are relying on, a draw at Old Trafford, a draw at Everton, Goodison Park, and then City winning all their games. It's an incredibly unlikely situation, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I agree in terms of what I think, like what you said, could happen. You need City to basically be perfect and Liverpool to, like you say, they've got 9 games left as well. How many are they going to drop? United at Old Trafford, really tough. Everton away. I think it's more so the level of those games that are going to really test and see what happens this season, because 2 massive rivalries.
Yeah,
in
the
those
intangibles.
games.
Yeah,
Exactly. So like that could be a big swing because United are really going to want to stop Liverpool, and same for Everton. They're going to want to stop them. Same with Arsenal. They've got Spurs and Chelsea, both going to want to stop Arsenal winning the league. So yeah, we'll see when it comes to that. But I think I agree with quite a lot of what you said. So I really like the Jack Grealish shout as well. I'm going to keep that one in mind when he starts. When he scores 9 in 9 for the last 9 games.
hey, get in, Super Jack.
Okay, so thank you very much for your opinions, Nobbins. That was brilliant. And now I'm going to give my opinions at the end of this video on what I think is going to happen in the league. So now you've heard from our other 3 content creators, now it's time for me to give my say on the title race and what I think is going to happen. So as I said at the start of the video, this is actually being recorded, the outro for this is actually being recorded after the first 3 games for each team. So the first game for each team. So Luton, Arsenal beat Luton. Liverpool beat Sheffield and Manchester City beat Aston Villa. So from these further 8 games, I think Arsenal will grab 6 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. Where those will come, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that Chelsea and Tottenham fixture back-to-back, both teams, it's their derby games, both teams are going to want to stop Arsenal. I alluded to this earlier. Those 2 games back-to-back, also if Arsenal then have to play City, if they get past Bayern, they'll have to play City if City get past Madrid in a 2-leg tie for the semi-final of the Champions League. That would also play a massive part. So I do believe Arsenal drop points in there somewhere. They also have Wolves away before Chelsea, which, as Alexander said earlier, that actually could be a tough game for them. And they've got Manchester United away towards the end of the season. So these are all tough games in my opinion. So I think there is a loss in there for them. I do think they'll win the majority. If I'm being honest, as a Chelsea fan, they do probably beat us. But I don't think it would be as straightforward as that because it's a massive game and it's a massive occasion. Chelsea are going to want to stop Arsenal from winning the league. So for them to have to come to us, get the job done, and then go straight to Spurs away, who also are going to want to stop them winning the league, I think that's going to play a massive factor. So I've got Arsenal with 6 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, which would have them pick up 19 points from their last 8 games. Then we move on to Liverpool, who have got picking up 20 points from their last 8 games, with 2 draws and 6 wins. So the draws that I was thinking in here, they've got Manchester United away, which I think is tough. Then they've got Tottenham at home, Villa away, Wolves at home at the end of the season. So I think these games, even Everton away, sorry, I should have mentioned, if anything, that's probably the second hardest game because it's another derby. And these are what I'm taking into account when I say these, the derby fixtures. So as I said, for Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham. For Liverpool, Manchester United away, Everton away. 2 teams that are absolutely going to want to stop Liverpool winning the league. And if they can be the ones to do it, they'll love it even more. So for those 2 games, not necessarily that Everton will be the one that make them drop points and get draws, but I do think Liverpool probably go unbeaten. But whether they can win them all is a massive factor. I don't think they will. I think they'll have a few slip-ups in there, just draws. I mean, the other day they went 1-1 with Sheffield. In the end, they came back through, as they usually do. But it shows that there's a little bit of scope for having to stay in games and get late winners. So, which again, is something they've done very well over the past few years. So, do I think they'll go unbeaten? Yes. Do I think they'll win them all? No. Then we move on to Manchester City, who I've got them winning 7 and drawing 1. So that would have them pick up 22 points from their last 8 games. So in there, they've basically got Tottenham away, which might be towards the end of the season if it gets rescheduled. But either way, I think that there's a chance they could slip up to like a Brighton or like even just a Wolves or a West Ham, who they've already slipped up to this year against against Wolves, where they lost away. So there's scope again for them to slip up. And as we were saying to Nobbins, usually you would think City could actually get on a run and they'd take over for that 9 games or 8 games left now. But the City that we've seen this season, they haven't quite clicked to the same degree. And yes, we all think City will click into gear come the end of the season, which is what we're used to seeing. But it has to come now, and it's very quick. They also have the Champions League to think about. Against Villa, now that we're recording this after that Villa game, they rested Haaland and De Bruyne. So are they thinking about the Champions League, or are they just thinking that they could get enough done? Because they obviously have a good enough squad. Foden was absolutely unbelievable in the middle. So De Bruyne was even less of a miss because when when Foden comes central, he looks even better. So, are we starting to see Pep prioritise Champions League, or was he just rotating his squad as he always does and thinking about the entire fixture run that he's got left? Who knows? But I do think City go unbeaten as well, and I think they draw less than Liverpool. So there's that to take into account. So as I said, I think Arsenal pick up 19 in the last 8. I think Liverpool pick up 20, and I think City pick up 22. But that would still have Liverpool winning the league, which when I think about it, I'm not 100% sure about, even though that's my predictions in what results could happen, because I still think City are going to win it. If I was, without doing all this, without talking about each fixture, if you asked me to pick a team now, and I had to, I would still say City. But then when I do this sort of breakdown and I think about what could happen, Liverpool, with that extra, they're 3 points ahead already of City. So they've already got that little bit of leeway to have a few less results. If they don't lose a game, if they do draw 2, and City don't win all 9 or all 8 left now, that's enough. Liverpool win the league. So, and that's obviously if Arsenal don't win all their games as well. So the point being is that I think Liverpool have a little bit more in the locker to just, they have that little bit of leeway, having that 3-point gap over City already, that they can afford a few draws, and they'll know that. So I do think they'll be relentless. I don't think that they're going to play for draws or anything like that. But that's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to say Liverpool, in terms of my predictions here, Liverpool win the league based on what I've said, based on the fixtures and based on what we spoke about. Then I'd probably have City come in second and Arsenal come in third, just because, and this is nothing on Arsenal, because genuinely, this is the most impressive Arsenal that I've seen. I think this is more impressive than last season. So even if they come third this season, I genuinely still think this is the most impressive version of Arsenal we've seen, like under Arteta. So it's no real feat on them, but at the same time, and again, they might, if they win it, it will be under massive circumstances of them still winning their big games. Like I said, if they beat Chelsea, Tottenham and United, they probably win the league, because the other games I would expect them to get the job done. I know that Alexander said about Wolves, so maybe that's a slip up as well. But even if they draw one of them, if they can get over the line in the big games, then they probably win the league. So who knows? But Arsenal do have the highest average rate in opponent. As you can see, I've put it on screen earlier. I'll put it back up now. 87.2 is their Opta rating. The Opta analysts have given them. Liverpool have got an 86.5 and Man City have got an 86.4. So Man City and Liverpool really tight. Arsenal a little way ahead in terms of the ratings of the opponents they've got to play and the magnitude of the fixtures, like I said, with the derby games. So that's what they think. And I guess that's what I think. Liverpool go on to win it based on this fixture run. Injuries could play a big part, as we spoke about with all the content creators. Who's going to be the most important during the run-in? For Arsenal, you're looking at Rice, you're looking at Saliba, even Gabriel. They've both been brilliant this year. Some people would have Gabriel ahead of him. And to be honest, I don't disagree. I think he's been unbelievable this year. I think both centre-backs have been class. For Liverpool, you got Alisson, who's currently out. Trent, who's currently out. But if imagine they lost to Van Dijk, that's huge. Salah, of course, in terms of output and what he can offer. Although he did go off in the 60th minute against Sheffield United when they were 1-1. And then they went on to win 3-1. So maybe that reliance on Salah won't play as big a factor. It's only Sheffield United, of course, but it won't play as big a factor maybe. Maybe they're going to manage him a bit better. City, of course, Rodri, the record they have without him. De Bruyne, Foden, Haaland. And then, as we also said with Nobbins, maybe a Grealish steps up and is the person who brings a bit more consistency back to this side for City. And we actually do start to see that run of games where they look competent at all times. And they just look a bit more balanced when Grealish is in that side. So, for me, it's an open title race. I can't wait to watch it unfold. Thank you again for all the content creators that we had in this video. It's really nice to speak to 3 different people, 3 different perspectives from different fan bases, and understand what their emotions are in context of this title race coming towards the end of the season. So, brilliant to have them on. Let's see what happens. I'm going to say, right here, right now, Liverpool win the league, based on what we spoke about today and the fixture difficulty. if I'm being 100% honest, if I was asked outside just down the pub, I would probably still say Manchester City win the league. But when I'm putting on my thinking hat and we're actually looking at the results right in front of me, Liverpool on paper for me win the league, and that Klopp effect could have a big say. So thanks for watching. Go subscribe to all 3 of the other content creators in the video. I'm going to leave their stuff in the comment section down below. Subscribe to me. We're nearly at 1k, which has been brilliant. I'm going to be working on another manager breakdown next week, which is probably going to be Thiago Motta, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So keep an eye out for that. Drop a like. Comment in the comment section below if you want to see more collabs. Who with? Let me know who you want me to collab with. And also, just let me know what you want to see. If there's a certain manager you want to be broken down, anything like that, let me know. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.